It's week 7. It's getting warmer, the snow's starting to melt, the world is turning into a beautiful place. Ain't it lovely? Okay, sorry for the overwhelming exuberance of the opening. It's week 7, we're almost halfway through, so there's a few things we need to talk about. For the homework assignment, we're talking about Chapter 2, Exercise 2. The one thing, the homework was all kind of, it's going to depend on who wrote it, so I'm not going to go over a specific example, but I did want to say for 2.2, it asked you to write from the perspective of someone who was actually on the committee. And one of the things I saw were a lot of people who just flat out put their opinion. And if I saw something that clearly looked like that, I probably asked you to do it again. It's going to work a lot better and be more valuable to you if you can actually put yourself in the mindset they ask you to. Grading. Midterm grades are going to be due soon, and I'm going to get them as soon as I get your instructions assignments graded, which is the next thing on my to-do list. I'll probably end up starting on that Tuesday. In terms of keeping your work graded, as in your normal homework, your normal group work, and all that, I've noticed a few things this week. I've noticed that I'm still getting some font issues. I'm still getting people who are sending stuff not as an attachment, so on and so forth. So I want to cover a few points. 1, document design is important. Document design in this type of writing, I know it's something that you haven't done in the past, because who cares about it in Comp 1? 1-inch margins, Times New Roman, blah, blah, blah. Well, we're not doing manuscripts here. We're doing complete, actual, real-world documents. As much as possible, everything needs to look like something you would see out there. So formatting is important, particularly because formatting always has something to do with usability. And this is particularly going to be true in the instructions assignment. If I can't find information in the middle of your document, you haven't really done your job in the document. Remember, it's the cell phone manual principle. I need to be able to find something in the middle of it because chances are I'm not going to read the whole thing all the way through every time. And if you make me, that's a problem. Design itself is important because it helps make the organization clear and explicit, and it helps the readers to understand stuff. So your stuff has to look good. And if you're having problems making stuff look good, I'd like to humbly suggest that you do an image search for whatever type of document you're working and see how other people out there in the world do it. Yeah, I was talking to one student this week who said that the actual documents he gets in his job, and students in engineering, I believe, aren't all that impressive. But our job here is to get you better than the crap things you see in the world. Not only understanding the conventions of everything, getting you so you do it a step above. So look for the people who are doing good design. I'm not saying you have to have artistic stuff out there, but your stuff should look good. Most importantly is your ability to follow directions. If you were a professional writer in some big company, they're probably going to have a document for you that's their own individual style guide. I think somewhere later I might show you a section of the IRS's style guide when we're talking about fonts. Or have you seen that already? I don't know. It's kind of hard to keep track, isn't it? They might tell you something different than what I tell you. You follow the directions of the place you're in. And in here, sans serif font for headings, serif font for body text. I need single spacing. I need these things to look good. I need your documents to be submitted as attachments. There are reasons for all of these, but in the real world, they're just basically going to want you to follow directions. So, because I've gotten tired of just having to type those kind of things, this needs to be an attachment, double space, this, use the proper fonts, I've decided to start including silly memes. And because I can, they're all cat memes. So you're probably going to see a lot of those attached to your homework grades. And don't worry, there is a really great job one that will show up if you do a really great job. Let's talk about the big writing projects. The job application and the instructions are generic kind of documents because, well, the job application material is going to be based on your specific skills. And the instructions, I picked a subject like video games because I wanted something we all had easy access to. It's going to help looking at each other's become more valuable to you. But I do want them to look like a technical set of instructions. After that, though, the rest of these all build into the big, great project, the formal recommendation report. The major assignment sheet spells out everything we're doing in this class in terms of the writing projects, so it might be a really good idea to jump ahead and look at the formal recommendation report and all the other segments, because one of the best things you can do at this point is get your thoughts focused, at least pointing towards that big project at the end, because there's a lot of stuff in the upcoming assignments that you can make it to where it's directly applicable to your formal recommendation report. And if you can get a lot of this work out now, then it's going to be less stuff you have to do at the end of the semester when you're cramped for time. The formal recommendation report will be based on your group's area. I don't care what your major is. If you're in the art group, you're focusing on art. If you're in the education group, you're focusing on education. So on and so forth. So make sure you're starting to think that way. And, well, let's give you some specific examples. We have the Infographics peer review session this time, and the Infographics is asking you to come up with some basic information about your field and be able to communicate it to the audience at large. And that basic information is stuff that can directly work in the formal recommendation report. Moreover, the Infographics assignment is about communicating information with the graphics. You can use graphics in your formal recommendation report. So the better you get at it now, the easier it's going to be. And if you're lucky enough, you might be able to use the exact same infographic in your formal recommendation report. This is how it's done. You work towards a big project and try to salvage as much as you can all the way through it. After this, we're going to be doing the research abstracts, and this is direct research in your field, in your area. We have a video for it this week. I recommend you also read the research abstract section of the major assignment sheet because we're going to start working on that next week. But the research you do for the research abstracts can directly play into your formal recommendation report. If you start thinking in these terms, I can use this stuff later on if I make it relevant, it's going to make your life so much easier down the road. And that's one of the things I try to build into the structure of the course, is that everything, you take your past experiences, and if you can add them to the work you're currently doing, that's how professionals in any field work. They don't invent the wheel from scratch every time. We also have a video going over ethics. Now, ethics are something that I was shocked to find students tend to like to talk about, because I don't think they get to talk about it, and it's a really fascinating field. Ethics needs to be a consideration in life, I think. It's something we've been touching on. If you think way back to week 1, one of the first videos I showed you talked about how there are these problems out in the world, and if you can come up with some way to solve a problem in the world, not only will you be helping people, you'll be setting yourself up for a good career path. That helping the people, though, If you can find work that helps humanity, helps people, it's profitable, it's good for you and your career, but it's also good for the world at large. This is one of the things that ethics talks about. So we've got two videos. Two. One of them is one I came up with, and we're talking about ethics and the terminology of ethics, and we're relating it to an ethical thought experiment called the trolley problem, and we're extrapolating from there. The second one is a video I found on TED-Ed called The Burger Murders, where it's a real-life application of ethics that they then extrapolate into a larger thought experiment. Ethics is something that is inherently tied up in the real world. The businesses we patronize, the TV shows we watch, the stuff we read. There are always ethical considerations. It's obvious in politics. Can you be objective? Do you have to be objective? Do we have to present equal space to all sides? Do we deserve to have the nut job wacko Nazis have equal space to the middle of the road people? Blah, blah, blah. Ethics are an important thing, and they need to be a consideration in the rest of your projects, particularly in the formal recommendation report. Because, going back to what we talked about week one, if you come up with an idea that can solve a problem in a field, it's not only good for you, it's good for the world at large. So, that's what we're going to be focusing on this week, and I want you to keep thinking of these things. Think in terms of a long-term plan, because the advantage of that is that work for the infographics, work for the research abstracts, can fit in with the work you're doing later and make the work you're doing later easier. Everybody builds a base of knowledge at the beginning and then builds up to their big projects. You don't abandon the lower levels. You incorporate them into what you're doing. The specific work we're having this week is the Infographics peer review session. Keep in mind, it's the ability to convey information using graphics. It's built into the names. If you have to have the words in there to understand it, it's not doing that good of a job. If it's ugly, it's not doing that good of a job. So use these things to help evaluate the work of your peers and to think about the quality of your own work. We also have Chapter 5, Exercise 3, and Chapter 9, Exercise 6. You have one bit of group work apart from the peer review session, which would be Chapter 9, Exercise 5. You can do it. We're almost halfway through. Keep working at it. Stuff's getting important. Stuff is always important, but we're building up to the big issue at the end. And the more you focus on that now, the easier life's going to be. You all can do it. If you have any worries, please do contact me. I'm happy to help you out. Look at Blackboard. I posted this week a list of resources and links to help you get assistance either through university departments, or if you have personal issues, or if you need financial assistance. There's a number of links in there about how to deal with COVID and stress. And I know that's something that's on everybody's plate because it's something that's definitely on mine. There are resources, and I'd also want to be a resource. So if you need me, you got Remind, you can get a hold of me really quickly. Have a great week, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everybody. Bye.